Hello, this is saxophonist Antonio Parker, and this is a conversation in jazz, where we are promoting jazz through telling the stories. Today, we are presenting part 2 of our interview with master bassist and educator, Mr. Steve Novosel. We ask you to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so we can let you know when we are posting another video or going live. We also ask you to donate to our Cash App in order to support the channel and help us to produce future videos. Our Cash App is $Jazzology 101. That's $Jazzology 101. Enjoy the video. Okay, we're back. This is a conversation in jazz, and we're talking with the great jazz bassist, Mr. Steve Novosel. Steve, learned a lot in that first part that I didn't know. So in this part, I want to know who are some of the musicians you've performed with?
Well, the list is long. It's not to exclude anybody, but the musicians that I grew up with, that I played with as a young man, who taught me a lot when I was playing trumpet. And then when I was lucky enough to be able to play with my heroes, which was amazing to me. I mean,
who are some of those musicians?
Well, as I told you before, Bobby Timmons was one of my first that took me out on the road. Pianist Bobby Timmons, yes.
So how'd you get to play with Bobby Timmons?
I played with, he was there in Washington, playing at the Bohemian Caverns. And I was with a group that used to play in the caverns. In those days, clubs like that had two bands. The headliner and then another band.
Okay.
So we used to play opposite people like Monk, Horace Silver.
Really?
Yeah. They'd play a set, we'd play a set.
Wow.
6 nights a week,
Really?
Oh, absolutely. So I was able to hear all my hero musicians and then be able to play. I mean, I was in heaven.
Yeah. So how'd you get to play with Bobby Timmons?
I got to play with him. He was one of our famous guys here in D.C. Keter Betts was playing with him at that particular time.
Yeah.
And he was getting ready to leave.
Keter was ready to leave?
Yeah, and go. He was going, I think, at that time he was either with Charlie Byrd or getting ready to play with Ella Fitzgerald.
Okay.
So he was leaving, and Bobby was looking for a bass player.
Really?
And the owner of the club, Tony, who was a guy named Tony Taylor, hooked me up with Bobby, and we had an audition.
So how did it happen? You tell me a little bit. He said he...
Yeah, we had an audition.
Oh, you auditioned? Okay.
Yeah. So we came. I came in there. I was scared out of my mind. And I played. And we played together, and then he gave me a solo, and he stood up there with his hands crossed, checking me out, And we finished the tune, and like I told you before, he said, I usually don't play with my white motherfuckers, but you can play. And he hired me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you tour with him? And
I played with him for the rest of the time he was in D.C.
Okay.
And then when he was ready to leave, he got a gig to go to San Francisco for 2 weeks. Or no, first 2 weeks in his hometown in Philadelphia, a place called the Showboat Lounge, which is a very famous club. So we went up there for 2 weeks. And while we were up there, there was also a added attraction to the trio, who was Betty Carter.
Wow.
You know? So she came in and did 2 weeks with us, you know. Bobby was the headliner, she was the added attraction, you know.
Wow.
So while we were there, I was living in a apartment upstairs from the club. So one night, I'm in the apartment after work, and there's pounding on the door. So I go to the door, and there's 2 guys with 45s. Yeah.
Really? Pointing at you?
Pointing at me.
Get out of here.
They were in there looking for dope.
Okay.
So
Were you scared?
was I scared? I turned black.
What?
But as it happened, the week prior to us coming in there, there was a very famous jazz drummer that was staying in that room.
Okay.
Who had a reputation.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
So they thought that I was part of this whole thing.
Okay.
So they searched, you know.
Wow.
I didn't find nothing.
Yeah.
But but in those days, you know, Philadelphia was famous for having for busting jazz musicians.
Okay.
You know.
Gotcha. Wow.
They had some very stringent thing going on. So, anyway, so after that 2 weeks, we were supposed to go to San Francisco, and then come back to New York. Well, San Francisco was canceled. Bobby canceled it, and so we went to New York. But he said just a duo, no drummer. So at that time, there was a club in New York called the Village Gate. And there was a place called the Top of the Gate, which was on top, it's 2 floors. So we went up there as a duo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went up there with him as a duo.
Okay. Wow.
For I'm not sure how long, but things got a little hairy along the way, and I finally had to leave.
Yeah.
Came back home.
Okay.
Came back to D.C. And during that time, the drummer that was part of the trio ESP that I was telling you about had gone with Roland Kirk.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So Roland was in need of a bass player, and of course through Jimmy, the drummer.
Wow.
So here I get to gig with Roland Kirk.
Rahsaan Roland Kirk.
Rahsaan Roland Kirk. And I spent 3 years with him. 3 years now.
Really? What was that like? I mean, here's another. I literally heard this cat play like 3 melodies at the same time.
Oh, yes. Oh, he was. I mean, it's hard to describe what he was about because, I mean, one thing
He was
is,
blind.
He was blind.
He was blind.
But I swore he wasn't.
Really?
No, I mean,
Wow.
we were coming off a plane in London to go to a gig, and the band's in a cab, and we're driving down, and we're going down. All of a sudden, Rahsaan said, "Cabby, you made the wrong turn."
Really? Wow. For real?
And the rest of it, he did.
Wow.
He made the wrong turn. He knew where he was going.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, he had
That's
that
sixth sense.
They
talk about that sixth sense.
Yeah.
Another quick one on that. We were working in the Village Vanguard, where if we weren't on the road, we had a regular gig at the Vanguard. You know, Max, the owner, liked Roland very much. So we're in there one night, and getting ready to go on a break. So if you know the Village Vanguard, that had a stairway before you came down to the floor, and then you paid your money and then came in. Well, who comes down from the bandstand? We could see him. it was Dewey Redman, right?
Wow.
Saxophone player. So we're getting ready to come off the bandstand, and Roland said, "Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Dewey Redman."
Wow.
How did he know he was there?
Wow. That's
Dewey, I would see Dewey for many years afterward. He said, "Steve, how did he know I was there?"
wow. That's
I mean, he would do things like that.
yeah.
You know, it would
Yeah.
make you say, "Damn, man,
Yeah,
can this
yeah.
guy see you?" You
Yeah.
know? But he would always surprise you.
So did y'all rehearse music and all that? No?
So I learned to play his music on the bandstand, on the gig.
Wow.
I
That's a
learned-
lot of pressure, man.
Oh man, my first night on the gig, the piano player didn't show up. So
Okay.
just me and
Just-
him
wow.
and the drummer. And he pulled out the clarinet.
So did he specially make his horns? Were they specially designed or were they just regular?
They were, I mean, well, those the stritch, what he called the stritch, and the Manzello. He found those in a music store or you know. He found them and brought them back to life.
So did you record with Rahsaan?
Yes, there was an album called The Inflated Tear.
The Inflated Tear?
The Inflated Tear.
Wow. And speaking of recording, have you ever recorded your own album or
No,
CD?
no.
Never done it.
I've-
But you're on a lot of recordings.
I've made who knows how many albums I've been on. You know, the bulk of a lot is with Andrew White.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and which is really, man, you know, and we're gonna talk about Andrew White, but it's something about when someone passes, I hear their music differently
Yeah.
because it's a certain finality. It's like this is what I left, you know, and you know, this is and you just man, like I just hear their music differently.
yeah.
I know a bassist that I went to high school, Mr. Russell Sledge. He was a young bassist, and he passed, man. And he got to do one album, and man, when I bought the album, man, I just heard, and I was like, man, that's my man.
Man,
and
my
it,
man,
it
yeah.
wasn't about how bad you played.
yeah,
It wasn't all
yeah,
about that.
yeah.
It was like, this is.
He
I can hear
came
you.
through.
Yeah,
He came
exactly.
through.
And man, so when I turned 50, you know, because we come up thinking we're gonna be. I'll be on the road, I'll be traveling the
You're
world.
supposed to think that. Yeah, sure.
But when I'm 51 now. When I turned 50, man, I began to look at life differently and think of legacy. Like, what am I leaving behind that can help people after I'm gone?
Right.
And so that music, those recordings are very is important because
yes.
If we didn't have if Byrd and Train and them cats didn't record, man, it's like I would have never.
Yeah,
right.
right.
I can literally have a sense of who Byrd was just through his music.
Absolutely.
And
man.
then
That was one of the points of being around during that time, like I was, and I never did hear Byrd in person.
Okay.
But I heard Miles. I heard Sonny Rollins.
Yeah. Oh,
I heard all these people live.
Wow.
Monk.
Did you hear Train live?
Yes.
Man, you heard Train live?
Oh, absolutely. I could tell you a hell of a story about that.
Come
one.
on, talk to me.
We were playing at the Bohemian Caverns. In those days, they did a matinee. So Train it was on Sunday afternoon. So I'm around the corner with Elvin at a little restaurant called the Chicken Shack. So I'm in there eating fried chicken with Elvin. Before they're going to get ready to go on and hit. So he had on a T-shirt, eating that fried chicken, grease all over it. And he was wiping his hands on his arm. So we get through all that, and we go down for the start of the matinee. And here's Train and Elvin and McCoy and Jimmy. And the first note, when they started to downbeat. It sounded like they had been playing all night.
Wow.
They just were on fire.
Really?
They were on fire.
Wow.
Train played, I don't know how long now, and he got a nosebleed.
Wow. Really?
Blood was gushing out his nose, man.
Wow.
And he kept playing till he finished what he had to say. Then he laid down on the floor underneath the piano and let McCoy have it.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Wow, man, that's.
And when McCoy was finished, he'd come Train back on up.
Wow. Did you ever get to talk to Trey?
Yeah.
Was he cool?
Well, not for a long period of time, but the group that I was with, the Trio ESP, we used to rehearse in the caverns after hours, after the bands are finished, you know. We're in there rehearsing one night after the show. Train was on earlier, you know. He was still in the back room practicing.
Wow.
He practiced incessantly. And he came out, sat down, listened to us, and talked about music.
Wow, man.
You know,
that's
he was one of the most humble human beings I ever met in my entire life.
Were you aware of his impact on music at that time?
Sure. I mean, he was.
Was he aware?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how aware he was.
Yeah.
He was still in a process.
Yeah.
You know, I'm talking about mid-60s.
Wow. Wow.
That band was still.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Ooh, man, they was.
So you ever play with Cannonball?
Yeah.
You played with Cannonball?
Sure, Cannonball. Cannonball was a guy that discovered Andrew.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. The JFK. Yeah.
JFK Quintet.
Yeah. Well, now, what was that like?
Cannonball?
Yeah.
Oh, he was quite a guy too, man.
Was he like a country kind of cat?
Nah, he was from Florida, I believe.
Florida, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
oh, yeah.
Him and that.
Yeah, he got that southern kind of.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
was a great guy, man.
Yeah.
He was instrumental with Riverside Records at that time. That's how they got that record date, the JFK. Through Cannonball, it was like Cannonball Adderley Presents. And he presented and that group. And then another good friend of mine, his name was Roosevelt Wardell,
Okay.
who was a pianist. And you know the song Daoud?
Yeah.
That was Daoud.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
who Clifford wrote about? Daoud?
Yes,
Daoud.
Daoud. He wrote that song. That's what he called that song for Roosevelt Wardell.
Oh, wow. See? That's it.
Yeah.
So you ever played with Stan Getz?
No, never played with him.
Never played with Stan Getz?
No.
So what about Lee Morgan?
Lee Morgan was another one of my heroes, my trumpet heroes.
Yeah.
He was.
You got to see Lee?
Oh yeah, I heard when I first went to New York in '58. I went to see Lee Morgan with
Really?
Art Blakey. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
did he have Lee? It's a story about Lee and like at Crampton with Freddie. I think Lee opened, man, and Freddie confirmed this. I talked to Ash Freddie, and man, Lee just put that thing on it, and Freddie came, and you know Freddie was doing all his, but the audience was that Lee grabbed him a certain way.
He was the hippest cat I ever knew.
Really? Now, did Andrew get the high water? Because Lee used to wear high waters too, didn't he?
I can't remember.
Okay.
To tell you the
Okay.
truth.
All right. Wow. Man, that's fascinating, man. So you came through a great period of music.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
no question.
A great period. Now, so you came through. Was there segregation? You came up through when it was segregation and all that. So
yes.
So how'd you become so hip, man? You
don't
like
know.
you like a brother. It's like,
I never had problems with that.
really?
You know, I mean, there were always underlying problems that happened, but I was accepted with the people that I wanted to play music with.
Yeah. Yeah. When you can play, that's the music speak for itself.
And
yeah.
you know,
But I remember you telling me a story about when King got shot. So share that story, and they had the riots.
It was the night that Martin Luther King was shot.
The night?
The night he was shot, because I was playing in a club on 14th Street called Jazzland, And I was playing with pianist. As you know, his name was Lawrence Fox Wheatley.
Lawrence Wheatley.
And a drummer named Mike Smith, who's passed, and a vibraphone player named who was also good friends with Andrew, Clement Wells. He played vibraphone and a guitar player. So we're playing that night, and we go out on a break, right? We go out on a break to the car and smoke some reefer, right? Just say it like it is.
Yeah.
So we're out there and get ready to come back, and we get out the car, man, and 14th Street is ablaze.
14th Street,
14th
DC, Washington,
Street.
DC. Wow.
There was fire, flames everywhere.
Wow.
So we're trying to get back to the club. Right? So people were breaking in the storefronts, stealing liquor and whatever.
Yeah.
People were crazy that night.
Yeah.
You know, and which we found out that was why, because of the death of Martin Luther King, assassination. So we're getting ready to walk back to the club, me and Lawrence, and some guy, one of the guys that was broken those joints, he was crazy. He had a fifth of liquor in his hand, and he smashed it against the wall, and looked at me, and said, "This is it for you, Whitey." You know?
Wow.
He was gonna cut me.
Really?
And Lars said to her, "No, man, he's a brother. He's a brother." and the guy, he looked, and he threw the bottle down. Lars saved my life that day.
Yeah, that's fascinating, man.
Saved my life.
Wow. Yeah, Lawrence Wheatley,
Yeah,
man.
he's quite a guy, man.
Yeah. He had, Lawrence Wheatley, he used to say hoping and coping. And,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had a way with the words. And
man.
Yeah, poetic. And yes, that's.
When I played with him much earlier, back when I was with Buck Clark and Charlie Hampton and all, we were rehearsing for a gig, right? Had a band. We rehearsed a couple of weeks, man, to get this gig. And come time for the gig, no Lawrence. Couldn't find him.
They called him Fox.
Call him Fox in those days. So after we were on the gig, about a week later, here he come. and Buck said, "Fox, where you been, man? You know, the gig started, blah, blah." He said, "Seek and ye shall find." That was
That
his
is so
answer.
long. Yeah.
That was him.
Wow.
Right? Seek and you shall find. That was him.
Now, do you have a nickname? That cats called you?
I don't know.
That's Steve.
Yeah, I mean, when I was young, my
right.
nickname was Sonny.
Was called who?
Sonny.
Silly?
Sonny.
Sonny. Okay, gotcha.
You know.
Yeah.
And then when I got into high school, playing with the band, and we used to play them in football games. I'd be drinking a little wine, and they used to call me Moog.
So man, we're gonna close out, but we just lost one of the masters of an institution. That man, one of the this a great human being, man. Just one of a kind cat, and the great Andrew White, and Andrew Nathaniel White III, man. And man, he was one of a kind. I'm glad I was blessed to not only meet him, but he would call me, man, and very supportive. He would come here. He would come hear us play and support us, man. He told me that I was his wife's favorite, his wife Jocelyn's favorite saxophonist.
Really?
So he always told me that.
Oh, that was quite a compliment.
So, and but man, we just lost the great Andrew White, man, and so we're gonna talk about Andrew in this last segment. And so how'd you meet Andrew?
I met him while he had the group at the Caverns, the JFK Quintet.
Okay.
You know, I was still in the Army.
Oh, you still in?
I was still in the Army. I was playing down at the Brass Rail, the place I told with Charlie Hampton and all. So I used to go up there and hear them, you know. And that was maybe the mid-'60s, 63, before I was still in. And I used to hear them.
Yeah.
They were up there 6 nights a week.
Wow.
I think he may still have been at Howard University.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Ray Cardrington, who was the trumpet player, also was from there. And then Mickey Newman, who was the drummer with the band at that time, they were all going to Howard.
Okay.
And of course, Harry Kilgo, which is Keith's son.
Okay.
Keith's father, I'm
Keith's
sorry.
father, yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
Walter Booker was the bassist.
So at some point he asked you to join the band?
Well, it was a few years later.
Okay.
Because during that period, when they stopped, I guess he must have graduated and all, and those guys all went their separate ways. Andrew, I think he went to Tanglewood
Okay.
during that period, because I remember his replacement to come in and play with the band was Eric Dolphy
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
for 2 weeks.
Okay. While he was in school?
No, while he went to Tanglewood.
Tanglewood, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So here's Eric Dolphy, man.
Wow.
I'm going in there and listening to them cats rehearse, you know, in the
Wow.
caverns.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he called you at some point?
Yeah, well, it was later on when he came back from Tanglewood, and I know he was in Paris. He went to the Paris Conservatory. I'm not sure what period that was. I think that's when he met his wife, Jocelyn.
Okay.
You know, over there. And then he came back to town, and also during that period is, I think, maybe when he did some things with Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
And so that you know all of that
Yeah.
part. So when we finally hooked up, I'm not sure exactly how it happened, but that was maybe 64, 65,
Okay.
and I was part of the band at that time, you know. Which ended up continuing through the years.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was doing a lot of stuff during that period because we weren't working like that crazy, like that much. But I never turned down a gig with Andrew.
Yeah.
Never.
So were you comfortable from the giddy up? Or like when you first got the gig?
Absolutely not. I was not comfortable because I didn't know what to expect. And he always had a surprise for you.
Really?
I learned a lot about playing in small groups because he was an excellent band leader. He knew how to rehearse a band. He knew how to get the best out of you through your whatever talents you had. You know, he didn't hire you just because you could read.
Yeah.
You know, he hired you for what
Something specific.
specific that he heard in your playing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
You
And he
know?
was very organized in his.
100% organized. He knew what he was going to do
Yeah.
next month.
Say-
You know,
yeah, he was.
he taught me how to play fast,
Okay. Wow.
tempo.
Uh-huh.
Because if you didn't know how to pace yourself,
You're gonna be
you'd
worn out.
never make it.
Wow.
You never make it, man.
And they used to call him the bionic saxophone.
That's right. That's right.
So I heard the story about the marathon concerts.
Oh yeah.
Now, what is the marathon concert?
The marathon concert was 9 hours from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next day.
Wow. So 24 hour.
24. We played 12 hours.
Uh-huh.
We played 50 minutes on the hour, 10-minute breaks. That was two different piano players, 2 different drummers, and me.
Really?
I played the whole thing. He got 9 records out of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. How'd you?
I don't know how I did it. It's done.
Oh,
you know?
God. See, that's historical, man. That is part
That
of it.
was, oh man, at the top of the Forey.
Wow.
Where it was done. Yeah.
And Andrew, he kept his energy, didn't falter. Huh?
His energy level was always high.
Yeah.
Very high.
Yeah.
He knew what was coming up.
Yeah.
It was all planned out, man.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You know?
So what, because you played with two geniuses that I know of in terms of saxophonists, Rahsaan Roland Kirk and Andrew White. Was there, was there some similarity or different, were they different in?
Oh, they were all different.
They were different.
They were individuals,
Yeah.
man. They all had their own story to tell.
Yeah.
Man.
Wow.
I played with David Fathead Newman for many years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wow. Do you sit back and just think about the like, damn.
Yeah, it was frightening, but I mean, things come to me, you know. You know, I don't, you know how blessed I was.
Yeah.
To have, you know, been part of someone else's life, musical life.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know how it happened.
Yeah. You just
I met Fathead through Roland Kirk, through Roland Kirk's producer at Atlantic Records. You know.
I think, man, you know what I think? I think when your motivation is doing it for the love,
Yes.
those things open up. Some people, they set out to do things. They trying to make money. They trying to do this, and you know they might find some success. But when you start out doing something that you love for the love, it sets you on a path, and it finds a way. It finds the way.
Like the song we used to play with Andrew, "Just for the Love."
Just for the love. Wow. And you've recorded on numerous albums.
Oh man,
And,
at least 40 that I know
Wow.
of. 40 albums. Man.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know, Andrew was very specific. He wanted a certain voicing that he.
Oh, with piano players.
Yeah. So he was very. He knew exactly what he wanted.
He knew
you know.
exactly what he wanted, man.
Do you think that Andrew got the? I know he got the international acknowledgement and all that thing. Do you think he got the acknowledgement that he should have gotten here in the States? Like
Probably not. You know.
Yeah, because
To some degree, he did. You
Yeah.
know, with the inside people, the inside crowd.
Yeah. I wrote for him to get a grant. Not a grant, but I wrote for him to be considered for an NEA Masters Award. You know, because I say, man, a cat that does this, I mean, he's one of a kind. He is, and it was some years ago, and I recommended Andrew White. And I sent a letter to Andrew, and he said, man, this, whether I get it or not, this is one of the greatest tributes I've ever had. You know, and so, but I always, you know, to me, man, Andrew just is a cat that I don't think people really appreciated what they had, man. Here, he was. This is like cat is like.
You know, he used to call me on the telephone and say, "Steve, I'm calling you to thank you for your music."
Thank you for who?
Thank you for your music.
Wow.
I mean, he did that numerous times.
Really?
I mean, he would be working on something and listening to one of the records. And he said, man, I'm so distracted listening to you, I can't get nothing done.
Wow.
I said, man,
Yeah.
I said, what a compliment, man.
Yeah.
And he did this many times, man.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of, man. Hey man, well that's what I say. He heard what he
knew what he wanted with me.
And,
I mean, after all them years,
Yeah. So how'd you feel when you found out he passed?
I was in shock first, of course.
Yeah, and
I felt a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like I'm still.
You still do, yeah, because we just had his going home services yesterday.
Yeah.
And then I went on Friday. I went to the
Yeah, they
viewing
had
and
some viewing.
But you know, man, as I was telling you, when I was looking at his pictures and all he accomplished, I couldn't feel sad.
No.
because he did his thing, man. I mean, he did it his way, and I mean, so we come through this world for a brief period of time, and some people follow the yellow brick road.
Yeah. He was never a negative kind of person.
Yeah.
There was never any negativity. Even when he got bad reviews and stuff like that, he'd turn that into something positive.
And he was hilarious.
Yes.
Andrew was. I read his book. He had I read it, man. It is number one. It's masterful.
Yeah.
He was masterful to his penmanship.
Yes.
To his sense of wit, and it was just like he just was just brilliant, man. His brilliant. With his notation, with the notation, man, he was just, So what time he used to come? We used to play with the Thad Wilson Jazz Orchestra on Mondays at the One Step Down. Yeah. And Andrew would come every and we would play his Giant Steps because I was featured on that. Yeah. And man, so on the break, I said, Andrew, I said, man, you ever have any struggles like in life? So he said, no. I felt like laughing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like he just, and I heard when he passed, man, he was peaceful. He was in a chair, and he had his autobiography in his hand, and just
he knew where he was going all the time, man.
Yeah. So he was called. Some people are called.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so man, we, if you haven't heard of the great Andrew White, I suggest you learn about this. Man, he was one of a kind, and I'm lost for words actually, man. But he, but I especially for young folks. Yeah. A lot of I said I wrote a thing on Facebook yesterday. I say sometimes a prophet is without honor in his own home. Mm-hmm. And you don't know what you have until you lose it.
That's right.
And so
absolutely.
So man, we just grateful that for the time he was here. And we got you talking about from 63, 63, 64 to man. That's a beautiful man. That so you was meant to be a part of his
absolutely.
Thing, man. Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
And some of the cats who played with him, Wade Beach, NASA Aberdeen, Warren Shad played with him, and man. So
Eric Gravatt.
Who's that?
Eric Gravatt.
Okay. What did he play?
Drums.
Oh, drummer. I think
he was a drummer with the Weather Report.
Oh wow!
At that time,
yeah, and then he played bass. He played and I heard I know he had perfect pitch, but I heard he had photographic memory.
Probably.
And all that stuff. So he was.
I never saw him go to the piano or anything. He's, as I understand it, he wrote all those transcriptions of Coltrane with a cassette.
Yeah,
on the airplane, right?
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Man, But yeah, man, I was just I'm glad I'm honored actually, man, that you came and shared your stories, man, and especially at this time when we lost Andrew, because you're one of the staples of his band, and man, and as we close out, you're also an educator, and I know you've been at University of the District of Columbia, Howard University. And so you need bass players to come out and study with you, right?
Yes.
So bass players, I mean, you got a master right here. So teachers, I teach in the DC public schools, and if you got bass players, here's the man right here, Mr. Steve Novosel. So any closing words?
I just want to thank you for doing this.
Oh man,
Antonio.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great honor for me to be here and talk about my life and talk about Andrew and all the great masters that I was lucky enough to have encountered through my musical career. And I thank the Lord for that.
Yes, sir.
And
appreciate you.
I thank you for being able to give it to the public.
Yes, sir.
And I hope all you musicians out there can see this.
Yes, sir.
And know how important this young man here is.
Thank you. Yeah. And if you got an website or something they want to contact you for gigs?
No.
Okay.
No.
So we find you. We got you. Okay.
Yeah, give my phone number.
Yeah, got you. So with that, thank you again. This is a conversation in jazz, and we've been talking with the great jazz bassist, Mr. Steve Novosel. So we see you on the next one.